So the men have been in the East, and they were probably priests. They were religious men of their own sort. They were probably Zoroastrians, as the text indicates, which meant that they were astrologers and stargazers and people who viewed the world in terms of a stark dualism of good and evil, and they looked for a Messiah who would come and once and for all conquer the darkness that they saw around them, the evil that was wherever they turned. And like most of us, I imagine they had been looking at that darkness for a while, and hoping and hoping and hoping, and looking to those stars for a glimmer. And then it was there. It was there, that star, it was there, that bit of hope, and they leave their comfort of their homes in Iran and set off on a long journey that was no doubt uncomfortable. Because you don't travel through desert and have it be comfortable. And it would have been along roads that were filled with robbers and all sorts of danger. And yet somehow that hope was compelling enough. Compelling enough for them to leave the place that they had always known, to go and pay tribute to hope. To hope. And what are you hoping these days? I'm afraid that sometimes we might have gotten on the cynical side of things and have left our hope far behind. We have hope that maybe we can't even speak of because we fear for it. And we look at the world around us and we see that things seem to be very much spinning out of control. I don't care. They're just out of control. Will we let that hope draw us forward? Will we be moved by hope? The wise men, the priest, head on out, and they first stop in the courts of power. They first stop with Herod. And they say, "We don't know where we're going, do you?" And it's interesting to me that the mere question is threatening to Herod and to all Jerusalem, which tells me that maybe hope is sort of threatening. What would this world be like if our hope took flight? Would it mean that our lives were turned upside down? Would it mean that something of what we have held on to would be gone? Or would we have to feel like we were casting ourselves into something that we didn't know what it was? And are we capable of doing that? Can we get beyond the fear that hope sometimes brings to be moved forward even beyond the glimmering of the star to Bethlehem? Those wise men, they kept following it, and then the star stopped, and then there is Bethlehem. And they received that hope with great joy. Great, great joy. That is so unlike Herod. It is so unlike Herod. And then they offered themselves. They offered not just their gifts, but themselves. They were down on their knees before a baby. What will we offer to see our hopes realized? Will we offer what we have? Will we offer ourselves in service to the dream? In service to the hope? Will we worship it? It's interesting to me that in our tradition there are really two Christmas stories, and one is the one where the angels appear to the shepherds and say, hey, it's good news, go. And then there is this other where there are people looking for hope and seeing it trek to find it. People totally outside. The shepherds were outside in their own way because they were poor and they were menial and they were Sabbath breakers. So they were outside, but these guys, they were outside too. They were Gentiles. They had no power in this place. And yet, they are drawn. Why is it that the Savior of the world doesn't appear to those in power? Why is it that the Savior of the world cannot be seen by those who are complacent and comfortable? Why is that? It's interesting that even those who should have known, the ones who had the sacred text in front of them, say, well, yeah, the Messiah's going to be born in Bethlehem, and can't be bothered to make the relatively short journey. And Herod, he went way beyond just not making the journey. He was desperate to quash the hope of the people. The Savior of the world comes to people who hope. The Savior of the world comes to people who need hope, who look around them and see that this world hurts, this world longs, this world aches. The Savior of the world comes to people who are lost and alone, who are poor and dingy, or maybe not poor, but somehow desperate for light in the darkness. We are invited to be the kind of people who hope. And not just to be the kind of people who hope, but the kind of people who live out of hope. Who are drawn beyond ourselves and our circumstances to worship God wherever we find Him, including in unlikely places, in unlikely people. And if we are the kind of people who hope and live in the hope, the kind of people who can look at anyone and say, I hope to see God in you, we will be richly rewarded.